We've all had a dream that has been hard to shake. An idea for a completely different way of life that for some reason the brain just keeps coming back to. But for most of these dreams, the passing of time and the momentum of daily routine eventually allow the idea to fade or to make way for something else. But on occasion, one of these dreams sticks around long enough and becomes all-consuming. The dream compels its beholder to let go of certain things once held dear, to remove all barriers getting in the way, to leave the comfort zone and take risks previously deemed too dangerous. To someone on the outside, a friend, a parent, or a colleague, this dream might appear to be a folly, the search for a white whale, or as a possession, a compulsion, or simply a bad idea. But for those who foster this dream, there are no other options. The direction is clear, even if the trail is not well marked. For us, the all-consuming dream is full-time overlanding. Living in our vehicle, exploring new places, and experiencing the world at our own pace. Buckle up, because in part 2 of 50 miles per hour, our Baja series, we rip off our training wheels and fully commit to the overland lifestyle.
Babe, what'd you do today?
I quit my job.
Woohoo!
This commitment we've made now puts us on a path to chase this dream full time, with zero distractions. Stay tuned to see how it goes. In our previous video, we crossed the Mexican border and spent 2 weeks enjoying the northern half of Baja. After Bay of LA and San Ignacio, we continued heading south, this time to a town called Mulegé. This historic town was a bit tricky to navigate the truck through, but once we made it through the one-way streets and low-hanging wires, we headed out to a rocky beach where we planned to spend my second to last week of employment. I had worked at the same company, Specialized Bicycles, for the last 9 years. Learning and growing with a group of amazing people while building a product I knew and loved really was the dream job. I was proud of the work my team had done, and overall, the job was interesting to me. And this dream job, along with Heather's work as a nurse, paid our bills and eventually allowed us to finance this dream truck. Leaving a job I cherished and giving up that bi-weekly paycheck just to drive around in a 17-year-old fire truck was one of the hardest decisions I had ever made. A decision that I'm sure many would consider foolish. But chasing dreams isn't the business of pragmatists, and a fully funded 401k does not guarantee that you'll be healthy enough to enjoy retirement later in life. While it's easy to measure wealth in terms of dollars, pesos, or euros, all the money in the world cannot buy you more time on this earth. So while taking some time away from full-time work won't be a great financial investment, I hope that I'm investing in something that matters more than money. We spent the days working and the evenings exploring the beach. We watched each sunset, which somehow felt more brilliant than the last. But counting down my second to last week of employment had me questioning my choice to leave. I began to view my work and my coworkers in a different light, knowing that our days spent together, connected by a common drive, were limited. Why was I throwing away a job that many would kill for? But one evening, after a long day at work filled with some heart-to-heart conversations with my closest coworkers, we were given a sign by the universe. The sun had set and the moon was just beginning to come out. And all of a sudden, the dark waves of the Sea of Cortez illuminated. Billions of tiny organisms were showing me the light, literally. I had read of bioluminescence as a kid, but I hadn't expected to simply stumble upon it. And to stumble upon this natural wonder at a point of questioning in life was a gift that confirmed my choices. At that moment, I knew that this risk was worth taking, and I committed. After a week on the beach in Mulegé, we were eager to keep moving south and explore some new spots we had marked on the map. But before we could explore new places, we needed to resupply. We packed up the truck and headed out for the necessary evil of the chore day. Chore days and truck life are a bit different, but the essence is the same. Fill up things that are empty and dispose of things that are full.
About 2/3 of the way.
We drove to town and filled our fuel tank and water tank. We carry about 50 gallons of each, which is usually enough for at least a week off the grid, depending on how much driving we do. We planned a number of meals and stocked up on fresh food. One of our favorite things about Mexico so far has been the variety of interesting fruits and veggies to try. Nearly every time we visited a grocery store, we left with something new. With our chores taken care of, we were ready to once again find a quiet place to spend the work week. And to celebrate my final week of employment, we decided to get as far away from civilization as we could. As humans, we spend so much of our lives close to other people, packed into certain areas like sardines. Many of us don't even know what it feels like to be truly alone. While we appreciate the convenience of having a coffee shop or corner store within walking distance, we also appreciate the privilege of being able to escape the presence of other people from time to time, and enjoy a true quiet that most folks rarely get to experience. The next place we headed was Baja Concepcion. While the western side of this bay gets a ton of traffic due to its proximity to the highway and its beautiful beaches, the peninsula that creates this bay is a bit harder to reach. Using Onyx Off-Road, we planned a route out onto the peninsula. This trail had a 4 out of 10 rating, which for our truck might be pushing it. But we had all day to drive and we were feeling adventurous. The description of the trail on Onyx helped us to decide to go for it, and the photos that the trail guides had added to this route made it clear that if we were able to get out to a few of the spots, our efforts would be well worth it. We drove these sandy dirt roads for a few hours, scraping trees as we went. Clearly, we were one of the bigger vehicles to attempt this journey, but that's not new for us.
So in classic Heather and Dana fashion, we followed our perpetual advice of never take the first campsite And we also didn't take the first, second, or third, or fifth, or 20th, or maybe 100th campsite today. We've been driving for like probably 3 hours on a very rough, wild road. Nothing insanely technical, but just exhausting driving, such a big vehicle. And yeah, the first place we had intended on stopping, someone was parked at, which we were a little bummed, but we were like, yeah, we'll just keep going. And yeah, a little grumpy after such a long drive, but then you get here and it's like, how can you really be grumpy? Yeah, this is pretty sick.
We were eager to start exploring our home for the week, but first, coffee. One of the things we love most about living on the road is having a new backyard to wander every week. Humans glorify national parks, waterfalls, and rock formations with good reason, but we often find more enjoyment out of exploring a patch of ground that isn't featured in thousands of Instagram posts. While we might miss the iconic Yosemite firefall or the delicate Archette sunset picture, we're often happier when we have a spot all to ourselves and get to discover what the land has to offer at our own pace. We marvel at the local flora and fauna and wonder about history of the land through the artifacts we find in the ground.
Where eventually another arm would grow out.
Yeah.
Rocks, bones, building materials, and old trails force us to put our historian hats on and place ourselves into the landscape in terms of both human and geologic timelines. What did this place look like 100 years ago? What about 1,000,000 years? I worked during the days, documenting and transitioning tasks and saying goodbyes to coworkers. The team even threw me a virtual going away party. And that was it. I closed my work laptop for the final time.
All right, what are we celebrating today?
Today is my last day of work. I knocked off early because I was done.
Done forever.
Done for now. Feels good. Time to relax. Well, go fishing. Taking some time off from full-time work was a decision I didn't take lightly. But at this point, the work was getting in the way of a dream that Heather and I had fostered for too long. Seeing the world from the road, one campsite at a time, and dedicating 100% of our time towards experiencing this world and documenting our travels. But we were doing more than just quitting our jobs. We were investing in ourselves, our relationship, and investing in a business together, finding ways to make money on the road by sharing our experiences with others. If you want to support this journey, clicking on the links in our description or purchasing items from the brands we represent really makes a difference. We celebrated my last day in the only way we knew how, with a roaring campfire, fancy cocktails, and a delicious fish dinner, caught that afternoon. We toasted to adventures past, present, and future. We talked about all the places we wanted to visit and admitted to the fact that we were both a bit scared. What would the future bring? But mostly, we talked about how excited we were to be on this journey together. It's in moments like this that all the risks, challenges, and unknowns of an adventure are justified. We basked in the warmth of the fire and marveled at just how bright the stars were shimmering that evening. Remember in episode 1 where I shared our free Overlander's First Time Guide to Baja PDF? If you haven't watched that episode, make sure to add it to your Watch Later playlist. The PDF guide is still available on our website and it's still free. Head on over to our website, linked in the notes below, to download it. After a week of isolation, we were ready for some culture. And now, we had so much more time at our disposal to adventure. And we took advantage of it. We bounced the 3 hours back down Bahia Concepcion, hit the highway, and headed south to Laredo. Laredo is one of our favorite places in Baja. The food, music, and people are amazingly colorful and friendly. This is one of the few places in Baja that we choose to pay for a campground because being able to sleep downtown to experience all the culture in this small city is 100% worth the cost. Hot showers and access to laundry facilities don't hurt either. After walking around the city for a couple days and eating our weight in tacos, we made our way to another historic town, San Javier. The steep drive up to this old mission was beautiful. We paid a small fee to camp at Huerta El Olivar, which connects to land owned by the mission and boasts a 300-year-old olive tree planted by the first missionaries to come to this area. The history of this town really gripped us. Drinking a locally produced wine, looking at the beautifully restored mission building, we were transported back to a different time. Spending time learning about the history and culture of the places we travel is important to us, even if we spend most of our time away from civilization.
On driving days, we tend to have this pattern of skipping lunch. I don't know if it's just because we're excited to get on the road or we get distracted because, time moves quickly when you're packing up and getting ready to go, but this is yet again another day where we had a great breakfast, got everything ready, packed up, got on the road, and then forgot to eat before we ended up kind of in the middle of nowhere with no lunch options. Plenty of food in the back of the truck, but it would be pulling over and stopping and cooking. So instead, we grabbed a bag of chips from the grocery store. And these things are Tostitos brand, but it's salsa verde flavor. And they taste exactly like Cool Ranch Doritos, except with even more flavor. So yeah, 10 out of 10. We just crushed the whole bag.
After our lunch of champions, driving down from San Javier, we headed back to the beach, this time to a spot we had found on iOverlander with an island nearby. The next morning, we inflated the paddleboards, ready to get some exercise after nearly a week of hanging around in towns.
Should we paddle to that island?
Let's do it. So we are stand-up, sit-down paddleboarding out to the island out in front of us. We think it's about 1.5 miles based on the map. Not too windy, but a little bit of wind. Doing it in the morning so that hopefully the water stays relatively calm like it is right now, so it's an easy paddle. But we've got life jackets and food and water and lunch and extra provisions just in case. So excited to go explore, use our paddleboards as ocean-faring vessels. We eventually made it to the island, just in time for a slightly more nutritious lunch. So we made ceviche from one of the triggerfish that I got last week, and in the freezer. Now we're sitting here, eating some ceviche, drinking some New Mix Palomas. It's like a Mountain Dew mixed with tequila. It's very American. I'm surprised that they don't have these in the US. We even had enough energy to get out and snorkel a bit before the long paddle home. And speaking of a long paddle home, the wind did kick up and it took us twice as long to make it back.
So we were in that spot for the last few nights. Really beautiful here by the water. Pretty sandy. We decided not to air down on the way out because it was handling really well, but then we parked in some pretty soft sand and thought for sure we would have a little trouble getting out of it. But clearly the truck just handles so much better than we ever expected to.
Makes it look easy as always. At some point we need to get stuck for the viewers, but not yet. At some point around this time, it hit us. We were about as free as we would ever be in life. Our commitments and obligations were at an all-time low. We were unemployed, healthy, and had nowhere to be for a couple more months. There was just enough money in the account to live for a while if we were frugal. We were finally living the dream. But at the same time, it also dawned on us that this period of our life was fleeting. Whether we could make it work for just 2 months, or we could stretch our travel time to 2 years, there would eventually be an end. So while we both enjoyed sleeping in for a few days, we were also committed to making the most of our time, and that is a great lesson to learn.